Good morning. My name is Jim Rapon with Coldwell Banker Danforth, and this is Seattle Real Estate Chat. We have a morning chat every Tuesday or a couple Tuesdays a month with Rhonda Porter and myself, where we talk about things that are new to the market, the real estate market in the Seattle area. And today we have a special guest, Bob Stewart. Before we get to him, Rhonda, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Jim. I'm Rhonda Porter, and I'm a licensed loan officer at Mortgage Master, serving homes in Washington State, and I'm the author of the blog, The Mortgage Porter.
One of my favorites, by the way.
Thank you so much.
So as I started to say, we've got Bob Stewart, you heard him there. Let me just do a quick introduction and let him take off. Bob has started with Jonathan Washburn, the former founder of ActiveRain, a brand new real estate app that's on the iPhone that is a real estate search app, and it's called Houseline, and we're real excited about it, and we wanted to have him here to talk to us about it today and share it with other people who haven't heard about it yet. It's only been out less than a week, right, Bob?
Yeah, a week yesterday we launched. So yeah,
Okay.
we're Jim. Thanks
Go
for
ahead and
having
tell
me.
him a little
First
bit
off.
about go ahead and tell him a little bit about your background, would you?
Okay, so I mean, it's been well over a decade now that we've been doing real estate, and I say we've got Jonathan Washburn and I have been together for about 14 years now in the real estate industry in some capacity, and we started in Washington, in the Seattle area, with a brokerage, and I guess we were what you would call a paper brokerage way back then, in that we were a broker, which allowed us access to an IDX feed from the MLS, which is how properties kind of get ported out to different websites, but we didn't sell real estate. Okay, and we just had a broker's license in that we were able to get the feed. Now, we could have sold real estate, but we didn't. What we did is we took that feed and we essentially turned it into a website way back when, right? Way back, I mean, the first time Jonathan did this would have been like 1999, I think, is when the NWMLS went with IDX. And so he had a site called Why Not Own that he did the kind of lead generation model, right? He took the properties, he put them online, he got better than other people at getting them found online. And that would eventually become a site called Brio Realty, and our company would be Brio Realty, and that was a brokerage that we had. We were young kids. We didn't really know what we were doing from a real estate perspective, but from a lead generation and just getting our website to rank and getting people to go there, we were pretty good at it, and we would generate a couple hundred leads a day throughout Western Washington, which, you know, again, back in the early 2000s, that was a lot. And we were able to turn those leads into a brokerage, and you know we would end up having, I think at our height, maybe 130 agents working for the brokerage, and then
Fast forwarding, you went into ActiveRain, a very active blogging site for the whole real estate community, right?
yeah, ActiveRain kind of came out of the lead management portion of our business. We had a platform called ActiveRain, which actually managed our leads or allowed our agents to help manage leads, more, you know, consumers in the marketplace. And that would
at its peak, it was what, 30, 40, 50,000 people that were title, escrow, real estate brokers, mortgage people. Is that right?
I mean, there was active, yeah. At some point, there's been, you know, 400,000, but half those people are out of the industry now, and
right.
Yeah. So ActiveRain as a blogging platform at its peak, you know, it had 30 or 40,000 folks that were logging in there on a weekly basis.
Which was huge. I mean, it was the go-to place for us real estate brokers to ask people in our industry about situations. I mean, we did a lot of information sharing and learning from each other.
And that was nice. That was at the front of social networking, right? I mean, this is 2006. Facebook's becoming big. There's not really a place. A lot of these conversations today take place in Facebook groups, right? You got a lot of real estate agents in Facebook groups, but yeah, back in 2006, 7, ActiveRain housed a lot of those conversations in the real estate industry.
Right. So, and then now, since then, ActiveRain, I think, has been sold a couple times, right? It's now in Trulia's hands.
Potato. We're a hot potato.
Yeah, and now that it's in Trulia's hands, that means it's going to be in Zillow's hands, assuming that sale goes through. So, yeah, and at one part it was part of Market Leader, is that right?
Yeah, so Market Leader, they were one of our original investors back in 2007, and then they kind of exercised an option and bought out the rest of the company in 2010, and that would have been the point that Jonathan left. So he's been kind of out of the real estate business for the last 4 years. I guess doing like the mastermind, right? He's like, what am I going to do next?
So let's fast forward, because I know people don't have a lot of time here. I want to get to the meat of this. So recently, and it was last week, I think, I found out about this new app that you guys are doing, very cool, called Houseline. Tell us a little bit about the genesis of that and what its overall objective and mission is.
Okay, so the idea with Houseline for us was we started looking at the landscape of how are people looking for real estate, and for years and years and years it's been desktop, right? The consumer goes, they sit down at their computer, they Google or homes for sale in Seattle, whatever that adventure is that they do on their desktop. It leads them to a website somewhere, and in the last couple of years that's increasingly become Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and in some markets like Redfin, or there's a few other kind of brokerage players in there. But as we started looking at this, it's really been the last 2 years, there's been this monumental shift occurring to mobile. And I have the best picture of Spencer Raskoff laughing. He's at like an investor meeting and he's laughing and he's got this very joyous look on his face. Spencer's laughing because in the last couple of years, more and more traffic's gone to mobile, and there's no way really at a large level for agents and brokers to compete. What's happened to this point is Zillow and Trulia both have really awesome apps, right? I mean, they really are fantastic, and so consumers go and download those apps, even though the data that they're getting, the listings the consumer sees on those apps, is not necessarily up to date, right? And we all know this, and agents across the country lament this, that these apps, they're out of date, they don't have the right properties on them. How can the consumer go there? The reality is the apps are so good, right? The experience is so good, the consumer's still going to go there. And so what's happened in the last 2 years is 60% on any given day of the week, and on the weekends it's up as high as 70% of the traffic going to these portals, right, the Zillows, the Trulias, the Realtor.coms, is coming from mobile. And the reason this is able to happen is because agents just don't have a play here. And even when you do have a play, because look, there are some companies that offer apps, okay, there's some good ones, but you can't necessarily take that and then go and market that app on your own. Like Facebook's a great example. You have to own the app in order to get out there and really market it to an effective level on Facebook and be able to use some of their big data plays and do some of the things that the Zillows and the Trulias are able to do because they own their app. And so with Houseline, what we're trying to do is give agents a chance to play in this field. And like I said, it's just every day. From 2012 to 2013, the top 20 real estate websites lost 100 million visitors to desktop. And that's not because those visitors disappeared, right? They've simply gone to mobile. And so Houseline's kind of our shot at giving agents a way to play in this. Okay, so now getting down to the meat of this, what's different about your feed than other feeds is you have a direct connection to the MLS, the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. And one of the reasons Zillow would love to have that. So what I want to know is what makes you different that you're able and allowed to do that, and the other ones aren't, that allow you to be special. So what we had to do is essentially when a consumer downloads the app, they are automatically connected to an agent. Now they can change who that agent is. Let's say Jim, they came in Shoreline and they downloaded it and they see I'm connected to Jim and they go, I've already got an agent, or my agent's a lady named Kendra, right? They can go in there and switch the agent, assuming their agent's on Houseline, but they have to have an agent. And one of the reasons for that is the IDX feed, right? People's ability to grab this feed is essentially for them to use it for their own benefit. And so what we've done is we've gone to the Northwest MLS and we've said, look, we are Houseline, but we'd like to take this feed on behalf of Jim Rapon, the agent, and we're only going to show these properties to a consumer once they've connected to Jim. So
okay.
it's similar to how somebody, when they come to your website, they're
Right.
essentially immersed in your experience.
Right.
And so that idea of us matching them up with an agent is why we're allowed to grab that MLS feed. And it's funny because it's a very odd, once you hear it, you go, oh, duh. But
so that's a very different model. Everybody else either comes in as an IDX or as a broker, or in the case of someone like me who has an IDX relationship, we have to pay a fee to authorize that IDX to have the feed for us. And you're saying you absorb that fee and whatever charges you charge me or whatever agent, right?
Yeah. You know, when you were throwing some questions back to me before, and one of them was, have you had pushback from the MLSs on this? And I chuckle because, look, I said earlier, when we were first doing this, we were very young, but naive in a lot of ways. I mean, we didn't know the business. We didn't understand IDX or what it meant to brokers, or really I don't think understood, like, brokers, you know, you guys go out and you do the work to get this listing data, and for us as young kids, we were just like, oh, there's this listing data out here, what cool stuff can we do with it? One of the MLSs they do a good job of protecting the data on behalf of their customers. I'll give them credit for that. I don't know that they understand or that they're looking at some of these issues in the full scope. So you asked, you know, have you run into? Yeah, we've already run into it with the Northwest MLS, but they're just trying to defend their agents or their members' data.
Sure.
And we get that. And so, you know, we've had to have some conversations already with them about, look, once the consumer gets in here, the experience is entirely the agent, right? And Jim, you might show the app in a little bit. We don't have a bunch of Houseline branding on it. Like, we don't care if the consumer ever knows what Houseline is, because one of the things that we have in there, and one of the things that makes it a little bit unique, at least as far as we're able to tell, we haven't seen anybody else that's doing this yet, is this idea of the in-app messaging. And so once the consumer gets in there, and again, they're forced to connect with some agent, they're not necessarily, though, forced to give up their information, right? And what real estate has traditionally been is you get on the website, right? Maybe you get to see a listing or three, and then the consumer is ultimately kind of captured, right? They're asked to give their email address or their phone number, something like that. And most people, even today, right, all these years later, are still willing to do that. But then what happens, and we all know this, and look, I understand why this happens, but then the agent, they want to get a hold of this person, right? And so they call, and they email, and they call, and they email, and they call, and they email, and they call, and they email. It's a little bit different on Houseline, right? You've got a chance to connect with them in the messaging component of the app. They can choose to ignore you, right? But you don't have the kind of this unfettered access to their email and their phone.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump into it so people can get a look at it. I'm going to do it here from my iPad and just see if I can screen share this with people so that they can kind of follow along. Can you see that on screen there?
That looks good.
Okay, good. So this is, I guess, normally how people come in when they launch the app. It just puts, it looks like to me that these are new on market. This matches with my new on market in the area that I'm at. And I don't know, is this geocoded to wherever the heck I am standing, or is this in the area that I've contracted with you to get the leads from that area?
You can do it either way, Jim. But so you see something a little bit different than what a consumer sees.
Sure.
A consumer has at the top, where instead of just list, which is a list view, just all the properties listed in order, basically, versus a map view. Switch to that map view there on the top, and it'll drill in now to Seattle in the area that you were looking at for whatever your filters are set up there in the bottom. But the consumer would also have a third option up there at the top, and we call it the stack. But it's essentially the swipe view, and so they get kind of a more full look at the property, and they can swipe to the right if they want to save it, and swipe to the left if they want to hide it, basically.
Gotcha.
And so it will, depending again, you know, apps are funny, right? We get to kind of choose how much an app can spy on our life, right? And so you can choose to tell it, you know where I'm at, right? And then in that case, it would go in and look for property kind of in the area that you're in. But with the filter down there on the bottom left, you can always go in and filter it, right? So right now you're set at your map location, which is the location you have on the map, but you could go up to that top where it says map location and type in, Tacoma or Bellevue or whatever. I mean, it works in much the same way that, a lot of the other apps out there. This one is pretty simple though. Okay, I mean it's really just where do you want to live, and what are maybe some features in the place you want to live in. We're not trying to give them every single conceivable way that they would search. We understand that most people, especially the people we hope to be coming across, they're going to be, they're a ways away from buying, right? When they really get serious, we still believe that the agent and maybe even that MLS, Jim, the way you guys can set somebody up in the MLS and really drill in for them on what they want. I mean, we still think once you get down to that real, you've got clients out in the car, then it's probably going to be best for you to be kind of hand in hand helping them with their home search, and maybe that does take place on the MLS. Over the months we'll develop out some features that make the search a little bit more robust, and but really we just wanted to nail the design element first and make sure that it's something that people, they like to dive into, they like to scroll and look at listings, and it's a natural, just a few of the, click on one of the listings for me. And again, these things seem so obvious, but scroll on the picture now, up at the top there, you can just put your finger on the picture and you can scroll to the right or the left. Those little kind of native experiences, the things that people are used to in an app, we've got those, right? You're not clicking it up and it pulls up and then that's the only way you can swap it, and more of kind of that desktop experience. So we've been getting some decent uptake with it. The people that have been downloading it already seem to be in there and playing with it and saving a lot of properties. I noticed that you had a client that had downloaded the app there in Shoreline, Julie, and she'd saved a bunch of properties at least so far. So starting to get a sense of how this thing works. And I don't know that Julie responded to you, Jim. I see that maybe you reached out and said, hey, Julie, I just wanted to say hi and let you know I'm your local broker, or whatever you had said. There you go. And she hasn't responded yet, but maybe you look through a few more of her listings and you see that she likes an open kitchen plan or something, and you could make some kind of a small suggestion there, or you can go in as an agent and suggest properties. So go back to the listings tab there, Jim. So as an agent, let's say you looked through the couple properties that Julie looked at, you'd seen that she's really interested in a 4-bedroom in Shoreline or whatever that is. So let's say you go in there and pull up a listing. Now I realize we've kind of there you go, just navigate the map right up and.
Well, it seems very intuitive.
Yeah, we hope. Like I said, Rhonda, there becomes this kind of balance of intuitive and feature-rich. The more feature-rich you get, the less intuitive I think it becomes. Again, though, the portals have done a really good job of kind of stacking features on top of an intuitive design, and I guess that's what we're aiming for.
So here's where I see this suggest a property.
Yeah.
And that's.
Let's say
Can I touch that without that going to her just for giggles?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to touch it, and then I can pick a client.
You would pick the client, and then it would send the property out to them, and then you'd be able to follow up with a message to that client saying, hey, based on some of the other stuff you looked at, this might be a property that you'd be interested in.
Now that's all data straight from the MLS. Can I do anything add to it, some value added? Let's say I went out and I previewed this property and took some video. Could I then push that out to them?
No, that's a great idea, man. We should put that on the list. That's on the list. Video's on the list for sure. Being able to upload content to this thing that people can get their hands on. So maybe it's just a link, right, or a blog post or a PDF or something. There'll be some stuff like that. Kind of again, those additional layers that make it a little less simple, but a little bit more feature rich. And we'll have lots of stuff like that coming down the road.
Yeah, that'd be
Jim,
great.
We've learned something over the years of doing this kind of thing. The easier you make something, the more likely it is for people to adopt it. And if we can get people to adopt something that's very simple, we feel like then we can build on that. And so, but when you bring out something that's very complex in the beginning and has lots of features, and Jim Rapond loves this one thing, but this other person never uses that stuff, we think it's a little bit easier to just build simple stuff, or maybe we're just simple guys. I don't know.
No, I understand where you're coming from, and it's also the kind of thing you guys are. Let's face it, it's a new app. It's not real built out yet. It's 1.0.
Yep.
I'm assuming that features will be adding and adding as you go, as you get suggestions and you see where the demand is. So, I can think of a ton of things like this that I'd love to see in it, but I'm not faulting it for coming out. At least it seems to be really solid. That's the most important thing.
One of the reasons we bring people like you on early, Jim, like we're not stupid, right? We bring guys like Jim on so that, you have good ideas, right? And so we'll generally try to take, so we can't take every good idea, because there's a lot of agents, there's a lot of good ideas, there's a lot of ways you can go with these things. So we try to take, generally what we'll do is we'll take the ideas we hear over and over again. That's something we learned with ActiveRain was, you'd get somebody to go, oh, I'd really like it if it did this. And we'd go, all right, well, if that's a good enough idea, 5 more people are going to say, I'd really like it if it did this.
Right.
So we put these things all down. We've got big lists, and we use some programs called Slack and Trello and some of these, these things to kind of manage projects, and we just try to get the good ideas down, and then when we hear them again, those are the things that kind of filter to the top. And I think that's probably, for us anyway, over the years, that's been the way we've gone about building things.
Now, there's a couple things that really attracted me to this, besides that it's this direct communication with the prospective client. One of them was your actual business model in terms of money. I'm so used to all of these lead generation companies, from the biggest, which is Zillow now, all the way down to market leader or top producer or whatever, always trying to lock agents into these long-term contracts as if they didn't believe in their own product at all. It just irritates me that they would say, okay, well, this is such a wonderful product and we're giving it a great deal, but you have to buy it for a year out. Well, what if I wanted to try it for 3 months? Give it a chance to see if it worked. Well, no, you have to be for a year. And they want to lock you into a long-term contract as if they have a feeling, and maybe it's true, that it's not that great of a product, and if we don't get him hooked in for a year now, in 3 months he's going to bolt. So your model is month to month. Is that right?
Yeah, I've never understood that. I just don't.
Me neither. And I'm glad that you're not taking that path, because it gives me a lot of confidence of going, oh, okay, well, I'll try it then and give it a shot. And if it's working, I'll continue. And if it's not working, I won't. But we go our separate ways if it doesn't. But I'm hoping it's very successful.
Where in real life does that happen, right? Like, where do you ever go? Like, I'm so glad I don't have to go into my hairstylist and then be like, I can't cut your hair this time unless you can agree to come back every month for the next 12 months because, right? And I'm like, oh no, you just cut it and it's horrible. Like, I don't want to come back. And they're like, sorry, you got to come back.
Yeah. No, I mean, the only place I see it is in telephone companies, cell companies, and that's because they got you locked into hardware. You're paying for your hardware. But even then, if you don't have hardware locked in, they have to let you out after a month or two. And they're considered the worst customer service of any business in the United States, or cell phone companies. We all know that. So I don't know why in the real estate industry that they force you down that path. But that's their choice. I'm glad you've made a different one. So there's that. And then there's also, you have a system where you're really only paying for the number of people who download, right? I mean, you're not paying, even if you charge a certain amount for, say, a territory area, if you don't get the minimum amount or a certain amount of downloads, you're only going to be charged for the number of downloads that happen in that month, right?
Yeah, correct. So that's our so what we're going to do with this, and we've kind of zigged and zagged, but our plan, I think, is going to be agents will be able to use this app for free up to 20 clients, and then at that point it becomes a software as a service business where they'll pay $49 a month if they want to be able to manage more than 20 clients on the app at one time. And then beyond that, and then that would be clients of your own, right? So you can go out there, you'll get like a unique URL, you can go out there and market it in your blog or share it with your friends or give the link to your past clients, and when they download it, they automatically get connected with you on Houseline.
Okay,
beyond that then,
I'm sorry, interrupting you. We're
That's right.
already at the end of our time, and I want to keep going, but there's more stuff here. The one thing that I want to find out is how are we going to make this the next big thing? How are you going to be? We need to really promote this for this to be the next Zillow, the next Amazon.com. What do we need to do to get this to be so viral that everybody's got it on their smartphone and everybody's using it because it's the best thing out there?
Well, I think there'll be some element of they like the ease of it. It's quick. Like, we've got all these speed tests. Our developers it's 300 megaseconds faster. Like that stuff just becomes a good consumer experience. There'll also be this play where we go out and we aggressively just try to get people to download the app, and there's really a void. This is not happening right now on any large scale. The big companies haven't had to do this because they've gotten pretty good name recognition, and people have been downloading now. So there is this kind of void in there where we can get in and drive people to download this thing. But we've got another thing, and I'll just mention it. It'll be the last thing, and we can go. At some point, we have plans on like an on-demand showing network, and I know this is kind of a contentious. This is a contentious deal in the real estate industry because agents don't want to be seen as this. I just jump anytime a consumer says, "Show me a house," and I'll just race off to show a house. But we've spent a lot of time thinking about on-demand showings, about the idea that a consumer out driving around on a Saturday afternoon who's sitting in front of their house, and Redfin's CEO Glenn Kelman at the last Inman said that on the weekends, again, like 40% of their showing requests come from somebody sitting in front of the house, right? We've got kind of this on-demand showing concept. We've got it all flushed out. We've got some things that we think that agents are going to want to see in this for their safety, right? And to maintain that they are actually meeting with clients who are capable of buying a house, right? Of getting the loan. Rhonda, you know all about this, right? So we'll do some things inside of the app to make sure that stuff is there for the agents to feel good about the concept of on-demand showings, but that's going to be our next. That's following quickly up here. We got to get to kind of a critical mass with the number of people and the number of agents. So that's a big scoop for you there, Jim.
Okay, and also what areas? I mean, you're right now. You're just in the greater Seattle area with Northwest Multiple Listing Service, but what are your next opening cities?
So we're going to Phoenix, Vegas, Southern California, including LA and San Diego. We'll be in the Bay Area. MRED, which is the greater Chicago area, the MRIS, which is Virginia, Maryland, and DC, one maybe in Minnesota. Anyway, there's 12, and they're basically the next 12 largest MLSs in the country: Houston, Dallas, Orlando. Those 12, we're hoping to have those out by the end of December, and so it just becomes a matter of you just knock MLSs down. You just go MLS to MLS to MLS. We can stand these feeds up pretty quick, and so then it just becomes a matter of getting approval from the MLS to be an IDX vendor for the agents in that market, and we'll have 12 of them up hopefully by the end of December.
And are you working with any strategic alliances? I mean, are you planning on partnering with a Zillow or maybe some IDX or something that's in the background there?
That would make a lot of sense, and I would say that's not off the table.
Okay. All right, you heard it here first.
It most likely won't be one of the portals. I don't know that their business model fits well. It would be something where we can add value that agents are already getting from a provider of some sort. I think those
three letters for you. I have 3 letters for you. RPR. I think that's a perfect fit. But anyway,
there are some really good fits out there, and that would absolutely be one of them.
Now, thinking on Rhonda's end, do you now have anything to do with any kind of mortgage things in the background?
I've had the question 6 times already. 6 different loan officers who've said, "Oh, hey, I'd like to get involved," and it always becomes this like affiliate business arrangement deal. I don't know that we're going to go that route in the beginning. Like, I always feel like those plays are just a way to like get into the loan officer's pocket, right? Like, you can advertise on Zillow on behalf of your agent so they can give you business. It's like this I don't know that we're going to get into that game anytime soon.
Okay.
Right? Like, I think that loan officers can just have a good relationship with their real estate agent. The real estate agent can go out and find the clients. And if I was a real estate agent, I want to get them to my loan officer to make sure that they're approved.
Sure.
And I think that kind of relationship, other than, hey, Rhonda, do you want to pay $50 to get in and put your mortgage calculator on my app? Like, I don't know. That's just
Okay, all right, I get it.
A good relationship with your loan officer, you want them on there anyway, right? Like you don't want
absolutely, yeah. No, I'm just curious how you might have a plan for that. So
I wish I had a plan. That was my just roundabout answer for I wish we had one.
Okay, Rhonda, do you have any questions here before we let him go?
So this is available on iPhones and Droid's coming soon, or how?
Yeah, it's just available on the iPhone right now. Jim was actually showing it to you on the iPad, which is, you can get it on the iPad, but it's really just an iPhone app, right? It's not the 3-column iPad design or anything like that. The Android will be next, and then after that, we'll kind of look and see. I would guess an iPad app would be next, but maybe a Windows experience would be after that. But definitely Android's next. It was probably 45 to 60 days on an Android app.
Yeah, the iPad experience, actually, there's a lot of reasons to do it, but mostly money. That's where the money is. But also, Zillow has found that their iPad experience, they can really open up their user interface to do a lot of things they couldn't do before. So, like you said, in the field, once we're out there with a client, we're usually using the MLS on our iPads, but I would say we use Zillow almost as much because it has so much more background data. They're so data rich for people who have questions about, well, what were the taxes and what did it sell for last and all that kind of stuff. We can get it in through the MLS, but it's just a kludgy interface compared to Zillow's.
I think in some ways, Jim, like, I want to be the bridge to get them to you in the car. Once you have them in the car, well, I don't necessarily, like, I don't know that. Look, we'd love it if you continue to use Houseline with your client, right? But at that point, like, you guys use the tools you need to use to find the house they want, you know?
Right.
Like, it just becomes this matter of, like, whatever's working, like, let us get the client to you and, you know, build that relationship during those 12 months when they never wanted to answer your call or take your email before. But once you got them in the car, I think that becomes a very personal experience for an agent and their client, and sometimes even from client to client, that I imagine is different for you.
Yeah, we all have different tools that we use that way, so it varies from agent to agent. Bob, we got to wrap this up. We're already 30 minutes instead of 20, but this was very informative. I think a lot of agents
we'll have to do another one.
We'll have to do another one. Thanks again for coming by, and we really appreciate you giving us the update.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Rhonda, I appreciate it. Rhonda is seriously my favorite mortgage blogger. That's not even a joke. I said it, Rhonda, when I was on stage in Seattle. You were in the audience there, and so just if you guys, I mean, obviously, if you're watching this, you read these guys, but I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks so much.
You made my day. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays, everybody. We'll see you soon.
To you guys.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.